This is SD The Great Battle, and if Wikipedia's release date chart is to be believed, it is the first Super Famicom game released in Japan to never get a Western release. This game was an early holiday release for the Super Famicom in 1990, and they were attempting to localize the game for an American release in mid to late 1992, but that never actually came to pass. You may note that the footage I'm showing you has English text though, and that's because Aeon Genesis have made an English patch for all 5 of the Great Battle games for the Super Famicom. So, if this game ends up appealing to you, there is a way for you to play it in English. This is a top-down action shooter that is a crossover of Ultraman, Kamen Rider, and SD Gundam. The entire game, fitting its namesake, is in the SD art style, so that everything looks relatively to scale with itself, as if the game were more realistic. Kamen Rider, human man, I don't know actually, I've never watched Kamen Rider, are they humans? The sentient RX-78 Gundam, and Ultraman, an actual kaiju fighting superhero, would never actually be the same size. There is a story to this game, however it's made to be very silly and very video gamey, to the point that actually talking about it is pointless. Basically, SD society was thriving, then SD bad guys happened. Now you must go to SD war and save your SD friends. Banpresto, a subsidiary of Bandai, made quite a few of these crossover-style games in various genres, which are under an umbrella term called Compati-Hero, even though many of the games don't even reference that term in the title. If you're familiar with the Super Robot Wars games, that series started off as a Compati-Hero spin-off. The primary gameplay of this game involves you running around a stage, fighting random nameless grunts, going into rooms to either find cool power-ups or mini-bosses who appear to be frequently appearing bad guys from their respective series, and fighting bosses at the end of the stage that are either big enemies from their series or Compati-Hero original characters. The characters I recognize specifically from Compati-Hero were Roar and Bonefighter, as I'm pretty sure I saw both those characters in my attempts to get through Moon Dwellers, but that game has never really clicked for me, which is really disappointing because I like Super Robot Tyson J. You might notice I haven't been talking about the game much. This is because there isn't much to it. You start with 3 characters and end up having 6 at your disposal by the end of the game. Each character kind of has their own projectiles and special attacks, but feel pretty identical to each other in every other way. They jump slightly differently, but please don't even get me started on jumping in this game. Jumping over some projectiles is interesting and mostly works. However, when it comes to jumping on any moving platform in this game, I feel like half the time I press the jump button, it doesn't work. This is something really hard to just demonstrate through gameplay and speech, but effectively, there are only certain times the game will let you try to jump on the moving platforms, and if it doesn't feel like letting you jump, it will simply kill your momentum and do nothing as opposed to working like a normal video game. I assume this is there to help young kids out, but it ultimately annoyed me more than anything else. The motion in general just doesn't feel good. It's sluggish and somewhat unresponsive, to the point that I tried to move as little as possible in most boss fights. I'll note here this is for easy mode. You probably have to move more on normal, but movement in this game isn't fun or good, so in my opinion, not worth the effort of trying if it can be avoided, and it can. There are 7 total stages in this game, and you get some number of lives based on your difficulty settings and 2 continues to get through all 7 stages, with the opportunity to earn extra lives through points. I typically only play these games for an hour when making videos about them, but when doing my research for this video I saw a long play that was only 46 minutes long. So I cranked down the difficulty settings after my first normal mode game over to see if I could see most of what this game had to offer. Each stage tries to have its own gimmicks to varying success, as there's only so much a game with so few mechanics can do. I generally like the variety between the later stages, but these stupid crystals in the Crystal Palace stage are one of the most annoying things I've had to deal with in a retro video game. The formula for levels never really changes, and there isn't a lot of nuance to what's happening here. Walk through the levels, jump, shoot guys, walk, jump, shoot the big guy, go to the next stage. Here's the final boss on easy. I obviously enjoy this game enough to beat it on easy, for whatever that's worth, but that's because it took me less than 2 hours, and I really like Super Robot Wars, and the characters from some of those games being here was cool to me. If you'd like to take a couple of hours to try this out, be my guest, but you probably won't be missing much if you never play this game. Besides the fact that I've heard the other 4 Great Battle games are quite good, and pretty different from this game, including having co-op, which could probably have made this game better if it didn't have platform jumping that you'd have to coordinate together. And you'd be missing whatever you want to call like 50 lines of dialogue or whatever here, a story giving context for the other games. I believe the ultimate reason people think this game never got its Western release was licensing issues, which is most likely true, but this game released in the Super Famicom's first holiday season, and would have been coming out for the Super Nintendo in mid to late 1992, when the competition was a lot fiercer. So if I had to guess, that played a part in it never coming out as well. This isn't even close to what I'd call a bad Super Nintendo game, but it also isn't that good either. It's a lot better than the Ultraman game that we got here. The graphics are fine, the music is repetitive and changes with characters instead of stages, which I reckon doesn't matter due to the game's length, so no song overstays its welcome unless you never switch characters, excluding the final stage, which does have unique music. And beyond the game mostly functioning properly and the cool licensing, there isn't much to let it stand out from the crowd. I also haven't mentioned it yet, and it doesn't happen often, but the game does suffer some pretty severe slowdown at some points, where there's a few too many things on screen. Not sure how much of that is built into the game, or my SNES Classic struggling to run a game that it didn't have on its stock. Might be a bit of both. Have you ever checked this game or series out? Do you have a favorite old game that was going to be localized but got cancelled? I'm interested to know what I might have to look forward to finding, if I haven't found it yet. Sorry to break the chronological fourth wall here, but I've played a lot of Japanese-only SNES games in my life. Please like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel if you like old or obscure video games, as that's exactly what I talk about here. Have a great day.